Hi there guys, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be talking you through all about dyeing your wax. So dyes specific for candles and for use in wax melts, and some important tips to look out for when buying your dye, what to buy and what to avoid. So my name is Matthew and I run Rustic Barn Candles.co.uk, and on our website you can find all the dyes that you need that are specifically for candles and for use in wax melts. So I only source the premium grade dyes. So there's a lot of dyes available on the market, some you have to totally avoid. What you need to be buying, which a lot of the product descriptions across various companies don't specify, is that you need your dye to be a soluble dye, not an insoluble dye or a pigment dye. You need it to be soluble. So all the dyes that are specifically used for candles we're talking about here, if you're using a pigment based dye, that's very bitty. It doesn't really break down, it's not soluble, it doesn't dissolve fully. So what happens is when that starts to rise up your wick, it starts to clog the wick. A lot of you might have heard of the word clogging. It causes a lot of mushrooming at the top of your candle wick, which in effect it restricts the size of the flame, so the heat of the flame. It can put out the flame, and it just affects the clean burning of your candle. So if from the simple thing of choosing the wrong dye, it could spoil your whole candle. And dye is so cheap, it's probably the cheapest product, cheapest ingredient that goes into your candle, because you only use a very, very small amount of it. But from the simplicity of choosing the wrong dye to start with, you can ruin all of your candles straight away because they just won't burn properly. That simply comes down to using the wrong dye. And it's really hard for people to find out why their candle's not working sometimes. It can literally be a number of factors. The detrimental choice of choosing the wrong dye when it's such a cheap product, it's just a decision that's easy to avoid. So what I'm trying to say is, buy the right dye, use reputable companies to buy the dye from. I'm not slagging off eBay or Amazon or anything like that, but you do get a lot of people just out to make a profit, so classing dye specific for candles, and it's not. You're going to find a lot of the pigment dyes on eBay. The sellers won't even know what it is, they're just classing it as a dye. So you want soluble dye. Rustic Barn Candles for all of your dyes, specifically if you're a candle maker, be very cautious when you're choosing your dyes. Yeah, I would avoid buying your core ingredients, wax, dyes, and definitely fragrance oils from places such as eBay and Amazon. It's not to say that they're not good companies, they're brilliant companies, but you're really gonna find it hard to find the premium products amid the mass of low quality products on those websites. So buy from reputable companies. For example, my company, Rustic Barn Candles.co.uk, we only sell premium grade products that are tested endlessly by myself before it even becomes available for you to buy. If the product doesn't meet my criteria, then it's not even put up as a product to buy. So rest assured that all of my products that are available for sale are for use in wax melts and candles. So the dyes I'm going to be talking about today are dyes to be used in paraffin types of wax, so straight paraffin or paraffin blends. When choosing a dye, you should look for a dye that is specifically made for a wax type, so as in paraffin or natural being soy or coconut, rapeseed, those type of natural waxes. So the dyes today are for paraffin. They can be used in a natural type of wax, but they're not going to be as vibrant because of the natural nature of natural waxes. They absorb the dye a lot more, so you have to use a bit more dye of these type of wax to get the same sort of brightness, but you'll never achieve the same sort of brightness compared to use in a paraffin wax. I do sell on my website dyes specific for natural waxes. They're a very deep and rich dye, so they are a lot more vibrant in the natural waxes. Those are specifically for natural waxes. Again, they can be used in paraffin waxes, but today the ones I'm going to be showing you are for use in paraffin waxes. So the four I have in front of me at the minute are the fluorescent dyes. Have your orange, your yellow, your green and your pink. So these dyes here are a very bright colour. If you want your wax melts or candles to really stand out on the shelf or in your photos, then you can use a fluorescent type of dye, which is these four here, and that will help you to just help the product stand out a lot more, maybe amongst others if in a shop or when doing your photo shoots. Again, back to the point, these can be used in wax melts or candles, so they're a soluble dye, which means they dissolve down fully when mixed in with your liquid wax. So then when going up the candle flame, they're not going to cause any clogging. So good for both. And I'm going to show you some of my other types of dyes. So again, these are all specific for paraffin types of waxes. So I can just show you the difference here. Both of these are from the same dye. So this is a pastel grey and this is a turquoise. Again, it's just the difference in colour is the amount of wax I've used when making each one. So the pastel grey here is quite light. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking it up. Obviously there is going to be some difference in real life to footage, so hopefully it's picking up as accurately as it can be, but this is the best I can do to show you. So a very light grey, and the more dye you use in the wax, the darker it can be. Same with the turquoise, a very light turquoise and then a very dark turquoise. Again, these are specific for use in paraffin waxes. Find those on the website. Now I find these ones really interesting to look at. So this is an ivory dye, these two here, again the same dye, but just more used in this one compared to this one. So it's a very light. Those of you who are making ivory candles, this is a brilliant one to use. Again, you can use less than this and it will come out a lot whiter or a lot creamier. And this is a brown. So there's a lot of people have been asking me for a brown. I've got an excellent brown here, specific for paraffin again. It can be used in natural, just won't be as vibrant. A nice light brown here, and again, the more you use, it can be a very dark, rich brown. And then I've got two very dark ones here. So we've got a black for paraffin and a plum purple. So again, I've used a lot of the purple in this one, so you can get this a lot lighter if you use quite a bit less. I've only made one example of this here, so that's that one. And then here is the black. With paraffin waxes, you can suffer, so you don't really suffer from frosting with paraffin, but you suffer from a type of crystallization, not the same as in soy, but if you get the right dye and obviously the right wax to start with, then you're not going to suffer with the blemishes that your finished products can have. So again, we only want to sell, or we only want to be using products that work. There's no point in using or trying to save 50p, trying to save £1, and then you're producing products that just don't look good. There is no point trying to be that tight in your spending. You know, the dye packets, they go a long way. They can produce loads and loads of wax melts and you know, lots of candles from one packet. So to try and save 40p, 50p and buying something that just don't work, it's just no point. Buy from reputable companies, get the products that work. It makes life a lot easier for you in your journey of making, and trust me, it saves all the headaches of especially for candle use. Why is my candle not working? Because again, it can be literally any reason why. First point of call, buy the products that work. I know that's easy to say because you don't know it up front. Again, that comes down to a testing process, an experience process. But Rustic Barn Candles, all of our products are pre-tested, they all work, so you won't have any issues with using my products. Okay, so that's a little video here about dye. I'm just going to finish with some tips, or more so information about dye, something that you might not consider but to consider. So dye comes in different forms. It comes in a liquid form or a solid form, as in literally a solid block, or broken up into chips or flakes. My preference is for the solid form, whichever sort of shape, it doesn't matter, just break it up into size pieces that you want. I've used a lot of the liquid in the past. It still works fine, but it's very messy, and if you get it on your fingers, on your clothes, or definitely on the floor, it stains. So although it works really well, I just try to avoid that mess or any accidents by using a solid form. It works exactly the same, and you don't have the mess. So just one thing to consider there when you go to buy your dye. There is no difference in quality, they both seem to work the same from my experience, and yeah, I avoid the mess and I keep it with the solid dyes. So another point is alternative dyes, so things that people have tried to use to dye their wax but don't work, or that you shouldn't be using. So these are things like food colourings. Food colourings is a very cheap option as a dye product, but it's not designed for use in wax. Ultimately it doesn't work, so don't use it. That's the short answer of it. One of the general reasons why it doesn't work is because it's made using a product called glycerin. Glycerin is water soluble, so it dissolves really well in water, which causes a good mix when you're dyeing your food products. But because there's no water in wax, it doesn't really dissolve, it just stays in little clumps. When you stir it, you've got like miniature little beads of basically oil, basically is what it is. It clumps together. It's a fatty product. Mixing around, it doesn't dye your wax, and it just, at the end of it, when it all stops stirring around, it just sinks to the bottom. So food colourings, don't use. Also crayons. So crayons is a wax product, so a product made from wax. It has wax in it, but again it goes back to the point I raised earlier on about soluble dye and pigments in dye. So you've got pigment dye. Pigment is a very bitty, like little chunks, very very small, but it's something that you want to try and avoid. Again, difficult to know if you haven't got the experience or know of the ingredients in a product, because most companies don't advertise it, or maybe don't know themselves. So crayons are made up of pigment dye. Again, it will clump up your wicks. It won't dissolve that well in wax. It will dissolve to a degree, but it won't give you that strong vibrant colour. Also when it comes to burning, so if you're using a candle, it's going to clog up your wick, it's going to give you a very small flame, you're not going to get a good scent throw. Again, it's just, don't use it. There's no point. Again, it just goes back to the saying of dye so cheap, buy the right dye, don't waste products. So you're going to be wasting wax, you're going to be wasting a wick, you're going to be wasting your fragrance oil just because you used a crayon. So there's no point. Another factor to consider when dyeing your products is your fragrance oil. Some fragrance oils do tend to dye your wax. It changes the colour of your wax. So this is just a fragrance oil on its own. When you add that to your wax, it can slightly darken your wax, your finished product. So for example, let's just use the colour red, a red dye. When using a red dye, and you're using one fragrance oil, it might finish in a certain shade of red. When using a different fragrance oil, the same dye might end up being a different shade of red in your finished product, generally a lot darker probably. So yeah, the fragrance oil will alter the shade of your finished product. And probably the last point to end on is, I think I mentioned it earlier on in the video, is dyes are made for specific types of waxes. Natural waxes, soy, coconut, rapeseed, any other natural type of wax that I might have forgotten to mention. So there's dyes made specifically for natural waxes. Those will work best in natural waxes. I have some of those on my website. It will say in the details of the dye. Look out for that. If you're using a natural wax and you want your dye to be as vibrant as possible in a natural type of wax, then use the one specifically made for natural wax. In terms of paraffin, again, there's dye specifically made for use in paraffin. That will work best in the paraffin type of wax. Can the dyes be used in alternative wax types? Yes, they can. There's no issue to that. However, it comes down to the point of it won't be as vibrant when used in. So a dye made for paraffin won't be as vibrant a colour in a natural wax. It's just because the natural wax really absorbs the dye, so you have to use a lot more. Whereas in dyes specifically made for natural waxes, they're a lot more. There's a lot more colour put into the dye, so they are a lot more vibrant in themselves. So they're going to dye a natural wax a lot better. But it won't be any issues in using dyes alternatively. It will just give a different shade. So I'm going to finish this video here. I hope that's been useful, giving you some good points about dye, things to consider, things to totally avoid. So thank you very much for watching the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Check out the website rusticbarncandles.co.uk. We only stock premium grade products, whether it be fragrance oil, dye, wax. I am developing my own candle wax. So there's a candle wax I will be bringing out at some point. It's the wax I've been using for quite some time now, with some additives in it to help it function better. So that will be coming out. It will definitely be coming out after I've moved house, because I'm going through a house moving process. Loads of headaches with that. Sooner that's done, the better. It's really restricting me on my growth and videos and bits and bobs I can bring out, including the wax. Just space issue. So yeah, so once I move, there'll be a lot more coming, a lot more regular videos, a lot more growth for myself and for you guys as well, in terms of the information I can give to you, the products I can give to you. I want to get mica, so mica as a product is something I'm really interested in. Really struggling to find a good manufacturer in the UK. I've found some, spoken to some, tested some, not happy with the product, not going to use it. So if anyone does know a manufacturer, so not a supplier, a manufacturer of mica in the UK based only, then yep, send me a message, let me know. Or if you are linked to that type of company, send me a message. I want to test your product, and we'll see how that works out. But yeah, a lot more to come. As soon as the house move's done, yeah, a lot more going to be happening. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to end this one now. See you later.